Well, it's time once again for a meeting of the Northern New England chapter of SABR. I'm chapter chair Bruce McClure. We offer all of our meetings in conjunction with the Gardner-Waterman chapter in Vermont. Dr. Clayton Trudor is the chair, and he is with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
There you go. We're glad you're here, Clayton. We don't have you enough. You got to come out to more meetings, my friend.
I shall.
We're gonna get in to what we have planned for you coming up as we move forward this evening. I think that's going to be an exciting meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. But we have reached the mythical halfway point of the Major League Baseball season, and I thought I would get the chapter together to check in with everybody, see how everybody's doing, see how their teams are doing, how you feel about the season going so far, and let's talk a little baseball for an hour before we get back into a lot of authors and meetings and the things that we have coming up moving forward in late summer and fall. So I'm just going to throw it right out to everybody and say, how are we feeling about, well, you know what, babe, before I get started, I want to go and do something that I have been remiss in doing over the past few meetings. And I want to go to Joanne Holbert, who is going to start us off with a poem.
Oh, well, no, let me get back there. Come on, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm back. Yeah, this, come on. All right, now. Yes. All right. I have something else here, though, that came up just, well, yesterday. It was handed over to me. And this might be a good controversial one for you to listen to. It was sent to me by Peter Mancuso, who found it on SABR actually. And the controversy about this poem is that it apparently is a poem that was written by a Chat GPT robot. So, the Chat GPT was asked to write a poem about baseball. That's what the instructions were. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because there's like, I don't know, about 10 verses in it, but it is controversy. So are we going to have them write all the poetry? How does this compare to the poetry that humans write? And so take a listen just to a couple of the verses. Okay. In the realm of summer's sunlit grace, where dreams take flight and memories trace, there lies a diamond, a hallowed ground, where echoes of triumph and hope resound. Baseball, the sport that captivates hearts, a symphony played with passion and hearts on fields adorned with emerald green, where legends are born and destinies gleam. The crack of the bat, a thunderous sound as it meets the ball soaring unbound, a testament to strength and perfect swing, where heroes emerge and glories sing. It does go on. How do you feel about this?
How long does it go?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 10 verses.
Two was enough.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well,
Two was enough.
Next.
do you hate it because it is a Chat GPT?
No,
Do
No,
you
I just hate it
because
I hate it because it's awful poetry.
Because it sucks.
it's very 19th century-ish?
It
Okay,
sounds
Yeah,
like something somebody's
it very
wrote.
much rings true to
Somebody wrote it
19th
according to
century.
Yeah, it is kind of 19th century-ish.
Yeah, I want to say Angie Dickinson, but who's the Belle of Amherst?
You mean Emily?
Emily Dickinson.
No,
Yeah.
No,
Could have
just
been- Could have
Emily.
been Angie Dickinson.
Yeah. So it is controversy, you know, do we hand over the writing of poetry or any other writing? This is not the first thing that I have received that was done by AI. There was another story, you know, a short paragraph and everything that I had received a while back, which I just filed, you know, but it is out there. Let's put it that way. And this is what AI has picked out. So perhaps this AI robot is a bit retro.
Well,
And
in fairness to the box of nuts and bolts,
Yep.
it's not. I don't know that it's not up against a lot of stiff competition. I don't know that there's a lot of great baseball poetry. There's a fair amount of great baseball prose,
Yes.
but not so much poetry.
Right.
Um,
Poetry is sort of, well, if you go back to like 19th century and early 20th, up to about 1920, poetry such as this was very much an integral part of sports reporting,
Right.
and not only just baseball, but all sports. I mean, Damon Runyon wrote some great poems about boxing, but
Right.
it was all sort of this idyllic sounding sentiment. And not only that, today's poetry hardly ever is rhymed, and here this robot has done that somehow. So, that's something, maybe you're gonna give the robot a couple of points at least for that. But it does have a very familiar 19th century, early 20th century ring. And
Maybe it-
this is the type of stuff that you would find on Grant-Lit Rice columns, Ring Lardner in his early years, he got a little more, brash as time went on, but this is exactly what it sounds like.
So if you saw that and you didn't know the provenance of it, you would think it was real?
That's right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. So do we allow for this and make sure that we tell them that it's an AI poem versus the others, or is it because we're going to make the human writers feel inferior? I don't think so, but it's a very interesting contrast between modern day poetry, especially sports poetry, which seems to have been really not as not as popular as it used to be. If you pick up any newspapers back especially between 1900 and 1920, like Ring Lardner even wrote about a young cub coming in. He wants to be on the editor's desk in the sports section of Chicago Tribune. And his first question to this young kid coming from the hinterlands is, "Oh, okay, you want a job here? How's your poetry?" Because Ring Lardner had a poem at the beginning of the column, in the wake of the world. And that had been going on for decades. And plus also a lot of 19th century writing had to do a lot with poetry. So that's how a lot of sports was expressed.
This
So-
is a big part of what the screenwriters in Hollywood are on strike about right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, that's what really struck me when I got this. When Peter had sent it to me, he says, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And it is rather a timely subject. Do we want AI to be writing this? Well, here's an example.
Yeah, one thing some of you may recall, and it took me a moment to look up. That's why I was looking down at from my screen. On April 12th, a SABR member named J.G. Preston posted a comment on SABR L. Out of curiosity, he had looked up some of the facts about baseball to see whether he was quoted, and it had an article that was written by ChatGPT that was way off base, had all kinds of factual errors.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Mhm.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
ridiculous stuff like Lou Gehrig played in the 1950s. I mean, so if you save your old emails, you might find this one. I won't read it because it's lengthy too.
Yeah.
It was filled with errors, but I think we can all agree this is just we could term it a scary situation, but certainly a strange one. That I saw Bill James at the convention recently, and I just asked him jokingly if he was the only person in America that understood this stuff, and he said, "Not by no means."
I know, man.
He didn't. He said he just didn't know, and he's one opinion that I thought he's done an awful lot with publications,
Yeah.
but it's a revolutionary thing.
Well, I suppose with nonfiction, AI is going to have much more of a challenge than writing idyllic poetry. That's wide open when it comes to that subject. But But Francis, this stuff could never hold a candle to your stuff that you have been writing and including in Turnstile. So we'll get a
Well,
Turnstile.
thank you, but I don't know. I hope not.
Your stuff is way better than this.
Fabulous. That's actually a pretty good way to start our Diamond Discourse for this evening. We're talking about some of the infiltration of artificial intelligence into writing, whether it be baseball writing or anything like that. We have authors here who could probably go on for an awfully long time for or against Chat GPT and things like that. But let's talk about the games and the teams themselves. Now, we're Northeast based. I see a lot of Northeast logos and hats out there this evening. I see some Mets and Red Sox, little Worcester. Bill's tossing that baseball. That's making me nervous. I'm not so happy with the way the Red Sox are going right now. But let's check in with everybody. You can just jump in when you want. How you feeling about your team so far? How you feeling about your favorite players? What are you thinking about for the second half? Who's up? All right, okay, I'm going right to Heather because Heather
That's it. That's all I have to
jumped
say.
right in. She just gave me the thumbs down. Heather.
As a Baltimore
What's going on
Orioles
with the-
fan, I have to apologize to all of the Boston fans out there. But we're having a great season.
As a fan of who, Glenn? I'm sorry I missed that.
Baltimore Orioles.
See, I'm an Orioles guy
okay.
too. I'm a general baseball guy. I've been following the Orioles this year because a good friend of mine is from Baltimore. He's also a SABR member. And talk about upstart. If only they could get more fannies in the seats down there.
It's good there. Despite my Red Sox shirt and New England roots, I lived 30 minutes from Baltimore.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
And
Bet you at a game.
my observation, I think the Orioles have done a tremendous job. They paid dearly to do it because they had some god awful seasons very recently. They were willing to cut down their franchise to a level that I would argue the Red Sox or Yankees would never dare do. And alienated a great number of some of the best baseball fans I have ever known. So the question now is, do you take the next step? Because you've done a great job getting those high round draft picks and those top prospects, but you got about a $50 million payroll and you're a game out of first place. So it's time to step up and really, truly compete. And I'm going to be watching at the deadline very closely to see if they go for it. Because Kyle Gibson ain't winning game one of the World Series.
He's not going to be asked to pitch it either.
You're not going to get there without more pitching, in my opinion. But
I want to jump over to Heather because she jumped right in and didn't mess around.
Well, there's not much to be said.
I mean, what's
Well, you got a
going
nice
on?
payroll.
What's going on with the Mets? Talk to me here. What's going on with the Mets right now?
Well, we have two overpaid, superannuated aces that are not coming through, so that's a big problem.
got a $300 million.
Everything else
payroll.
is a problem too at this point.
It's been a downward spiral for, right out of the gate.
Well, losing Diaz didn't help.
Yeah, that's true.
So that kind of
Yeah.
was the first major blow, and then everything sort of cascaded from there. But anyway, I'm just sort of hanging out, waiting to see how this
So
season is.
what is the next step from your perspective as a Mets fan? What do they do next? Because
Well,
they built up this huge, very
yeah.
expensive team.
Well, I just saw something on Facebook about how they're looking at this Japanese pitcher. They might go over and they've already taken a look at this guy. So that might be a possibility for next year. He's only 24 and he seems to be what they described as Bassett with more velo. So that would be interesting.
Is that
We would-
Yamamoto? Is it Yamamoto?
Yeah, I think that's his name. I don't remember. It just kind of
Because
skipped over my.
there are many teams, including the Red Sox, very, very in on him as well.
So we'll just have to see. But we do need more pitching that isn't old. So.
I think you could say that about every team in the major leagues right now. They all need.
I know. Where are all the
Doesn't
young
matter who it
pitchers that don't suck? But I
Oh,
hope they don't fire Buck. Everyone's talking about firing him, and I'm just like, why do you do that? You know, why? I mean, he was fine last year, right? So.
see, there's a
Buck's
good
a
question
good
to
guy.
throw out now, right now. Buck Showalter in New York. I've read a few articles that Heather's just referred to about him getting bounced. And I'm with Heather. I don't agree with it. What say you guys out there?
Buck
Go ahead, Glenn.
Buck
You're
is
the
a
perfect
great-
person to ask.
Buck is a great manager of players. And if you give him the players and they're having the success you can expect of them, he's going to just do fine. But nobody wins when the players can't perform up to their task, and no manager can make them. I like Buck. I liked Buck when he was with the Orioles.
I would agree with that.
How many times has Buck been fired?
Every
No.
time.
Every time.
More than a
Every time
few.
except the last time.
Well,
He
More
didn't
than
get
a
fired
few.
in Oneonta.
well, and Buck has never managed in a World Series either. I don't know if that's entirely his fault, but it is a fact.
Well, I don't know if that's a big issue, but I think the fact that the pitching just can't get it together, and then everyone in the field is now flailing around, just sort
Well-
of like in a time warp or something. It's
Well,
just, I don't know what he can
Buck-
do about that exactly.
If they get rid of Buck, Buck will be he's not the victim. Buck will be part of the old saying that, you can't fire 25 guys or 26 guys now. So you gotta do something. This is all.
This from a Yankee fan.
There's a lot of dog and pony show in running a Major League Baseball team. And if you tout yourself as the next coming and you spend $300 million plus doing it, and you're where the Mets are now, you can't just go, it's bad luck. Somebody's head has to roll, so that people think, oh, he's Steve Cohen's doing something. He's out there, they're really trying.
So is that why the Yankees fired their hitting coach?
Yeah, exactly.
I
Well,
was
yeah,
about to ask that
That'll do it.
question.
because, and there's more. Part two, the Yankees, yeah. We now know without any question at all, it wasn't really much question to begin with, but Hal is one tiny little fraction of his father. And Aaron Boone is the guy that will do whatever Hal wants him to do, however ridiculous that might be. I mean, Boone is just
right
a
over
dope.
right. Cashman?
Boone is just a dope, and Cashman along with him. The Yankees, unfortunately, are looking at not a very bright future because it's run by people who are stupid and who play the fans as dopes. And let's face it, for all baseball fans, this is not a rational thing. Okay. If we had service like this from a car dealer or the guy who runs the gas station or the grocery store, I mean, we'd be going to grocery stores where the guy says, "Here, have these bananas. They're still pretty good." No, they're awful. They're rotten. They're terrible. Oh, here, have this piece of meat. This is a choice cut of meat. Yeah, but it's 3 times what it should cost. And we wouldn't go there anymore. But we don't divorce our baseball teams. We suffer instead. As a Yankee fan, I haven't suffered all that much compared to Red Sox fans. I seem to enjoy it a lot, but
Oh, here we go.
I don't
Here we
enjoy
go.
You suffered plenty since 2004, my friend.
yes, I have, and and to make you all feel bad, I'm suffering now. If it wasn't for college baseball, LSU, it'd be a long summer. It'd be intolerable. It's awful. I don't know how other teams take it. It's terrible.
Seriously,
Sorry,
I-
I can't feel too bad for you.
I don't know. I'm not asking for anybody to feel bad for me.
Nope. Hey,
I'm sure you're relishing this. This is, it's part of the
Nobody's-
deal.
I can tell you down here in the Baltimore area, they hate us more than they hate you. So,
That's a good question, because there are times it's gone back and forth.
my experiences at Camden Yards universally is, and I'll admit, a large part of the problem is the behavior of my fellow Red Sox fans who come down drunk as skunks on buses and then just lord it over the O's fans.
Your cousin from
It's a
Boston.
longer ride.
I didn't say it, you said
Was that
it.
Clayton?
Do
I
Yankees
said it's a
fans
longer
pour
ride.
into Oriole Park the way that Red Sox fans have over the years?
They do, but
Okay.
they're better behaved. I must confess. I mean,
Oh my gosh, wow. That's a
They are.
shocker.
No,
Huh.
because and it is a post 04 phenomenon. I've lived here since 2000, so I was going to games at Camden Yards before the Red Sox won the World Series, and it was very different. There's a sense of entitlement that some of our brethren have taken on, and the ones that root for the NFL team in Foxborough are even worse. And they are hated. They are hated here. There's no other,
That's pretty interesting because we're doing a book on the 2004 Red Sox for next year.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I haven't noticed is Boston fans in the Boston area being too arrogant, despite all the championships and so forth.
and it's not certainly people who, I mean, anybody who remembers Gary Geiger has no right to be arrogant, right, Bill?
Well, yeah, but it's interesting that maybe they take it out in other cities, but
It
I
has
just don't
changed.
pick it
I
up
think
around
it's-
here.
I have seen it change.
Mm.
I mean, just in my, I've been 50+ year Red Sox fan. And I'll tell you, I've also seen the nature of the Red Sox Yankee rivalry. I grew up in Central Connecticut, right on the battle line. I mean, literally 50-50 Boston, New York. And the nature of the rivalry to me is very, very different today from both sides. And in particular, I used to often tell people, the Red Sox hate the Yankees. The Yankees are dismissive of the Red Sox. That's not the same as good old fashioned, we hate you, you hate us. The Yankees, to me, my Yankee fan friends, people I know, the Yankees hate us a lot more now that we've beaten them a few times. Which is just fine with me.
Yeah, but a lot of other teams have beaten them a lot as well.
Ouch.
Ah.
This is Kevin's first meeting, guys. I mean, poor man's not coming.
Don't give him the
back
wrong
after
impression.
this. So I just,
Be nice.
if there's one thing we are up here, we're opinionated, Kevin. Then we are demonstrative, we're opinionated, we know what we're talking about.
And you got to do it with a smile. Even when you're going at it, you have to do it with a smile. I've always
That's
said.
right. That's right. Kevin, I'm going right to Kevin because I want to get the poor guy in here before he runs away. I want him to at least to contribute a little bit. Kevin, who are you a fan of and how do you feel about the second half? Are you a Red Sox guy?
No, I live in Nashua, New Hampshire, but I didn't grow up here. So I am neither a Red Sox nor a Yankees fan.
Cleveland Guardians.
No, close, but Pittsburgh.
Yay!
Oh, good. There's more.
Karen, we get
National League team.
So how are you feeling about your Pirates moving forward?
Well, I think for the second half, it'll define whether this was a successful season or not.
Yeah, it's kind of
yeah.
iffy right now.
Right. I don't think much was expected this year,
No.
despite the start. That was always smoke and mirrors. I mean, they were never going to win 97 games and win the division or anything, whatever pace they were on. But
But there was always a chance of something. Whether it was
Some-
good,
something.
bad, indifferent.
But maybe I'm just too pessimistic about it. But I think they've got, I guess as of today, all of the prospects that are going to come up now in Pittsburgh. So I know their top pitching prospect is making his debut right now,
Yeah.
Quinn Priester. And I think Andy Rodriguez came up. I didn't see if he was in today's lineup or if he's going to debut later in the week. But between those two, Henry Davis and Nick Gonzalez, the next couple of months are to find out whether they're going to, well, they're going to be on the team next year, but whether next year's team is worth getting excited about or not.
You
Wait and
deserve a
see.
new owner. You deserve a new owner more than any other fans I know.
Oh, well, I hope so.
Oakland.
I hope so, but I don't think that's coming anytime soon. I don't think there's any interest.
Great fans, beautiful
So,
ballpark,
Mhm.
great baseball tradition, and a total bozo who owns the team.
Yeah.
Aaron, you had something you wanted to add.
You're agreeing with me, I can tell.
While we're on the subject of ownership here,
Yeah.
Walt's brought up a very good part of the first half of the season. We all saw what happened in Oakland with the reverse boycott. We all saw what happened there with the sell shirts, things like that. What is our opinion on the situation in Oakland? Now, I've got to kind of stay out of it a little bit because Nancy Finley's a good friend. And so I'm a little bit jaded with the Oakland A's staying in Oakland. I'd rather see that happen. But you guys have seen what's going on out there. What's your opinion?
Well, I was at the stadium years ago, and it was a terrible stadium then. And having lived out there, but not being an Oakland fan, I think it's just a sad statement that they have good fans and a terrible owner who has bled the team. And yet you go to Tampa or you watch Tampa Bay, who can't fill the ballpark for love nor money. And they have a far better team, although right now they're kind of regrouping, shall we say. And I just think, the Manfred and that crew, they just seem to just allow this. And I just think it's very sad for the Oakland people, but I think it's inevitable. I wish they were going to Portland or Montreal and not necessarily to Vegas, but I just think it was allowed to just deteriorate into, and I just think it's unfair. And it speaks to the problems in baseball with the ownership. I mean, I'm a diehard Rockies fan, and that's a great venue. And their ownership needs to change too. They see it as an entertainment center. They get all kinds of people there. But back to Oakland, it's just the baseball leadership just has, to me, I have just, other than the new rules for this year, which I think have been successful, they are absolutely abysmal. I'm jaded, I know.
I mean, they had a legitimate proposal. Oakland had a legitimate proposal on the table, and it was shown to Rob Manfred by the mayor of the city. And I don't know what came out of that meeting, if there was nothing really publicized after it,
Mhm.
but it sounds like he was just dismissive of the whole thing.
Yeah.
On that point, Charles Finley had an agreement from Oakland too.
Mhm.
Oakland never lived up to it, and you can ask Nancy about that.
See, that's a good point, Glenn,
So-
because she's discussed that with me several times.
It would be
yeah.
really easy to walk in and say, okay, this proposal is perfect, and we do it if we believed you, but we don't believe you. I can understand
Good
that
point.
response.
And I'm gonna dance softly around politics here. Okay.
Yeah,
I
please
am
do.
I am a firm believer that $1 billion of public money can be better spent on things other than major league ballparks.
Mhm.
The state of California, when the Giants built their beautiful stadium, not that far, but if you're familiar with Northern California, and my son lives out there, I mean, they're worlds apart, but not a lot of miles apart, Oakland and San Francisco. But San Francisco had to privately finance their own stadium. And they just paid down the debt service on that park, I think a year or two ago. One of the reasons Giants are in the third or fourth largest market in the United States, and their team is worth $3 or $4 billion. But one of the reasons they have not spent what teams like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Red Sox have, is because they've had a very large interest nut to pay all the time they've had this park. Bottom line is, California, like Massachusetts, it's a state that says if you want a new stadium, Oakland A's, you're going to have to pay for it. Or you're going to have to do something beneficial enough for the city of Oakland and the economic development of this area. And there was a larger package where a stadium was going to be part of housing, retail, whatever. And that kind of blew up on. Rob Manfred wants somebody to pay for a stadium for this team, and Las Vegas is more than willing to do it.
Not just Manfred, though. Manfred works for the owners, and the owners
And
want
the
that to
owners
happen.
wanted even more.
Right. They want it to happen. I just want to make that clear because a lot of people
Yep.
are like, oh,
Yes.
Manfred this, Manfred that. He's just a
Right.
patsy
not a
for the owners. He
dictator.
just does what they tell him
He's
to do.
in front
So,
of the camera, and he's been getting the daylights kicked out of him. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's part of what he's paid to do.
Yeah, that's what he's paid to do. You're right. Along the lines of the entertainment district and all of that, it came out today in the Globe and the Herald about the redevelopment of the Fenway district. And
Uh-oh.
Bill can correct me on everything that I'm going to get wrong in this next sentence because I only skimmed the article. I saw Gabrielle Starr's post about it this afternoon, thought it was interesting, and I didn't have time to read it all. But it was something like $1.1 billion for several buildings in the district that include retail and high-end housing and such. Is that right, Bill?
I saw an artist rendering in the Globe that was really hard to take in. I didn't get the whole picture. There's been a lot of money in that area the last 20 years since new ownership came in here. They've bought up most of the neighborhood themselves, and you see all these high-rise buildings going up. It's certainly a revived area.
Yes, that's for sure. One of the things that Gabrielle made a comment about was the fact that the city is continually getting more expensive for those who should be going out to the ball game. She is a whip smart writer who has an exceptional eye for both the game and the social aspects around the game, both within the park and outside of it. And I'm going to be very interested to see how she writes about this and comments about it going forward, because it speaks to her idea that there's not enough affordable housing in the area or in the city, or frankly, in many of the surrounding cities.
Yeah, Boston is one of those millennial meccas too.
Yeah.
Where the young people are flocking to. DC is one of them as well. And they get there and boy, they better make a lot of money right away because they're not going to be living anywhere that they can afford.
That's right. That's right. I have a friend of mine who I work with in my pesky day job, who, when that person came up here from where they lived prior, looked at Boston and immediately kept driving because they couldn't afford it, and settled in our state's capital up here in Concord and is comfortable.
My son works in San Jose, and he knows people who drive from the Central Valley on Monday to work in Silicon Valley and basically sleep in their car during the week because they can't. They can afford a home in the Central Valley, or they rent a hotel, the cheapest, steadiest hotel, what they can find. But it's a real issue. Being afford to these hot areas, being able to afford to live there is a real challenge. Boston's definitely like that.
Yep. Interesting stuff. Yeah, interesting stuff. Let's get back to
who's up? But who's paying for this redevelopment?
I'm gonna have to go back and read the article. That's a very good comment. Well, I did not, like I said, I didn't read it. I skimmed it because I had to get ready for this. I'm sure it's gonna be front page of the Globe's website tomorrow and the Herald. So I think we'll all be going there to take a look and see what
The
it says.
Red Sox ownership and that cluster of companies that they have is a big part of it.
That's really.
That's
what's
what I
my
thought I read, yeah. Let's get back to inside the park and let's talk about the
Yeah.
teams and the games themselves. We're at that mythical halfway point. We know where our teams stand. We know what's going on in the standings. What do we see happening? Let's start with the American League East, AL East. What do we see happening in the AL East going through to September? Who's going to come out on top? Is anybody else making the playoffs within the division? What do you think? Where do you think everybody's going to finish? Stumped you.
I had to guess, and I'm probably not as much in touch with, as some of you, but I would say whether the Rays or Orioles take the biggest step toward player transactions.
Oh, see,
They're only a game apart.
Yeah. And they're both maybe not, they might or might not take that leap to get the player or players they need to get to win the division.
I see the Orioles doing something. I think that Orioles ownership right now is saying, wait a minute, we've got ourselves something special here. Fans are starting to come back to the ballpark. We are now negotiating a long-term lease, which rumor has it is going to be finished up in the next 30 days or so. I think based on optics alone, they pull the trigger on something for what I think is a starting pitcher to put him over the hump. Glenn Vassett, go.
Yes, one thing to remember is Grayson Rodriguez, who came into the season as the #1 ranked pitching prospect in all of baseball, got his promotion early, was roughed up, went back to the minors, is starting tonight.
I was about to ask, he's starting tonight, isn't he? Yeah.
He seems to have, I have no idea what he's doing so far. The game started at 7. But he seems to have gotten things straightened out in the minor leagues. He's an outstanding prospect. There's one pitcher. 2, John Means, who is the ace of the staff for the past 3 years, is coming back at some point this year. That's another starting pitcher.
I had forgotten about him. That's a good point.
He's coming off Tommy John, though, is he not?
Yep.
Yes, he is. He is.
I would not. That first year back from Tommy John is one I wouldn't typically bet on, but Means is a good pitcher.
I'm just pointing out that these are things that they have going. Obviously, after his minor league rehab, he's not going to be pitching 7 innings in his first start after that.
Right.
I know this, but he's going to be a better pitcher than a lot, and he's going to cost nothing, relatively speaking, in terms of giving something up. This spring, I was very frustrated with a lot of Baltimore bloggers who were going on and on about how they didn't do anything to improve the team. They got these, and they listed all the people they got. All the people they got, with the exception of Kyle Gibson, are doing very, very well.
Even Gibson hasn't been bad. I mean,
and they've got the 3rd best
Gibson
record.
pitched his rear off yesterday.
Yes.
let me throw something out there I heard yesterday, and for the Oriole fans and anybody else whose team, I do not believe the Red Sox would be in this position. So I could see the Orioles, if he becomes available, being a team that could trade for Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, you just, I was going to go there, man. I was going to go there.
Absolutely no illusions that he would re-sign with them as a free agent, but the Orioles could send 2 or 3 outstanding prospects and not even put a dent in their farm system.
Want to see him
You can,
To that
see,
point
to
about
me,
the-
Yeah, I would.
to me, that
wanna
kind
see
of
him
move
do it, but-
should be made by a team that believes this. If we acquire Shohei Ohtani, we can win the World Series. I
I
believe the
believe
Orioles
that,
can
yes.
legitimately say that.
I don't believe there's a pitcher since Bob Gibson that could legitimately win a World Series for a team.
He's not just a pitcher, though.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
To that point on the Orioles and their prospects, they're gonna have a 40-man roster crunch pretty soon. They're gonna have more
Next year.
players than they can take, yeah. So they're gonna have to trade them at some point, whether it's now or in the off season or at
And,
this
and
point
it,
next year.
you know, it doesn't have to
But-
be Ohtani. But to me, I mean, I think Tampa Bay is going to add a starting pitcher, at least one. I think the Orioles need to, if they have any hope of beating Tampa Bay. I think Toronto's going to be looking to add starting pitching, which is why I think the Red Sox need to add a starting pitcher too.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt.
Just for the record, Glenn, top 3-0 Baltimore. Rodriguez has pitched 2 with 2 hits, given up no runs, struck out 1. So
Thank you.
I'm knocking on wood for you, but.
And that,
So.
and they've run
right,
8 in
there
a
you
row.
go. There you go. So what are we thinking? Tampa? We thinking Baltimore? Who's winning the AL East?
Baltimore.
I think Baltimore.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Who finishes third?
Oh, Walt coming in hot with the good questions this evening.
The
Because
third
you figure Baltimore's winning the division, Tampa Bay is finishing second.
Because I think the top 3 are going to the playoffs, and no one else. That's my take.
You're probably
I
right.
think both Texas teams are getting in. Teams getting in for whoever wins the Central, and the top 3 in the East. I don't think 4 AL East teams get in. So who finishes?
I have no answer to that question.
Hmm.
You can make an argument for all 3 underneath Tampa and Baltimore.
Yep.
If you're going to shake me and make me answer, I
think
the
the
Red
answer
Sox
to that
get hot.
question is what happens at the trade deadline and who
And
is
that's-
most aggressive.
I think Toronto's the best team today.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Why aren't the Blue Jays better?
Toronto.
Shouldn't they be better than their record?
I just saw an interesting rumor flying across the interwebs about how they're interested in trading for Stroman.
Really
Should be cool.
Getting it back.
Taking
Getting
it
it
back.
back, yeah.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I think the deadline's gonna be
Stroman will
fun.
be traded.
Yeah, he would be. I like him.
The interesting thing about winning the trade deadline too is that the winner of the preseason trades or signings was supposed to be the guy that got the team that got Jacob deGrom.
Well, and they're doing pretty well too. It drives me crazy when people say who won the trading deadline, who won the offseason, who won the winter meetings. Because you know who won the winter meetings? The New York Mets won the winter meetings.
Right,
The
exactly.
San Diego
He's right.
Padres won the winter meetings.
He's right.
They're not in the playoffs.
That's exactly what my point is. Yes.
Yeah.
It's all
you
hype.
say the same
It's
thing in a
all
different way, yeah.
sports writer hype.
That time was right. The Red Sox had more wins than both of those teams, and they were abused for the moves they made in the offseason.
I want to jump in here for just a minute because I know Clayton is going to have to jump out in about 5 minutes. And I would just wanted to say our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, July 25th. And I cannot see what I've written down, so I have to move it to my bigger screen. And as a man of a certain age, this helps. But we've got
Make
a really
the print
good
bigger.
program. What's that, Heather?
Make the print bigger.
That's exactly what I did when I moved it to the bigger screen. It's a professional act, I saw. We're actually going to have a great program with Clayton and Dr. Paul, whose last name I am going to butcher, and I've known him for years. Semendinger.
Oh,
Oh,
Manila.
good. Great.
I think I got it, Paul. If you're watching this video and I wrecked it, I'm sorry. But we're going to have a debate, which I think is one of the very first debate type programs that SABR has run on Zoom, where we're going to be debating the Hall of Fame credentials of Thurman Munson.
Oh, God. Oh,
This
That's
got
gonna be exciting.
started on Twitter a few weeks ago.
Oh, Bill James's fault.
Thank you. Yeah, Clayton, Clayton, jump in here.
Bruce, what was it, Bruce? You broached the idea that that he might be a Hall of Famer, and Bill James was very dismissive of the concept, and we
Let's get this right. Bill James dumped all over me.
Bill James dumped all over you. Yes, the Robert
That's
McNamara
fine,
of baseball did. So Paul and I'm gonna take the con side. Paul's gonna take the pro side, and we'll see what happens.
What are the
Clayton is
rules of this debate? Have you worked it out
There
yet?
are
or-
no rules. It's a no.
Oh,
collision chapter.
There are
We
no
have
rules.
There should only
Mixed
be one
martial
rule.
arts.
People can intelligently debate it. It
Exactly.
remains civil as long as they accept up front that Carlton Fisk was better.
Oh, without question.
But
I have to say,
Wipe everything off the board there.
I had the great good fortune of living in New York City when Thurman passed, and having a boss who gave me tickets to the game, the first home game
Oh wow.
after months of passing, and they were playing the Orioles,
I remember that game.
and it was one of the most moving experiences in my baseball life to be in a box seat in Yankee Stadium when a man like Thurman was being honored. And that's all I'll say now. I tune in on Tuesday. It's Tuesday, the 25th.
Tuesday the 25th. That's right.
Tune
Yeah.
in. And
One of the things,
speak.
one of the things with Munson people don't often discuss is that he barely made the 10 years.
That's true.
And I mean, he's his
Gotta write
first
that down.
major-
Ah!
He came up at the end of '69 and he died in August. He died, I hate to say it, he died on my birthday.
Oh.
in 1979. So that's, I mean, he did not play. I mean, he only played a handful of games in '69.
That's true.
I lean no on him, by the way, as he's somebody who grew up hating him but admiring him. But I will say this: much more deserving than Don Mattingly.
Well, you and I can debate that one on the next debate.
Well, I mean, this could be a
Now,
series
you don't want to
of
debate
debates.
Interesting.
This could be a series of debates starring Dr. Clayton.
I'll just whatever the unpopular opinion is, I'll take that one.
No, I mean, in both cases, it's the length of the career that's the issue. I mean, they're certainly they're both MVPs. They're among the greatest players of their generation, but their peaks. I mean, the argument against both of them is their peaks weren't long enough.
Well, I've been cooking up a few others in the laboratory too. So
okay, good.
When this came up, and Clayton said he would do it. I was overjoyed because Clayton has been a real friend of mine in the chapter since this whole thing got started years ago, and the support that comes out of Vermont for us working in conjunction with them, this wouldn't have happened without it. So I can't wait to see how this is going to go. It's going to be a lot of fun to have you to feature you, Clayton.
I'm looking forward to him. And Dr. Paul is a brilliant guy. I'm very fearful of him as an opponent.
Thank you to both.
It's gonna be a fun night. It's gonna be a fun night.
Is it gonna end in a vote?
We're talking
good
about
question.
that. I don't know. It may be a vote, it may be a fight. I don't know which, but we're gonna.
Here's the trivia question: Who caught for the Yankees in that game that was just mentioned? Who took
Say that again?
Munson's spot? When the Yankees came out for that game after he died, they left home plate. They're standing for the anthem. And they left home plate uncovered for the anthem. That was part of the real emotional tug of that. But who caught that game?
Do not remember, I must say.
This is Cerrone.
Which Weiniger?
Weiniger and Cerrone were not there yet.
They were okay. Oh,
I
Lord.
believe
Joe Girardi?
in Joe long before Girardi.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm right about this. I'm doing it from memory. This is not what I
Walt,
looked up.
Walt, I think you're going to be my Karl Rove for this thing. You're really providing all this preparation for it.
I
This
have not
was
taken that as
70
a compliment.
This was-
Oh, I didn't mean, yeah, well,
oh, God, I'm blanking on the date right now.
You're not going to get it. I believe it was a guy named Bruce Robinson.
So what, I'm blanking on the
him.
date of this game. Glenn, help me.
The day would have been early August of 79. August 3rd or 4th of 79. Somewhere in there.
Let's take a look here.
It was either him or Brad Goulden.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, when as the print gets smaller, it's tough. Let's see here.
Munson died on August 2nd.
So August 3rd versus Baltimore, 1-0.
Yep, that's the game.
And starting catcher for the New York Yankees that night, Jerry Narin.
Oops. All right. What was Bruce Robinson on that team? Can you
Good
see?
question.
Again,
I'm in
He'd
yeah,
retired.
that would make sense. Narin was that.
1979, 6 games.
6
Okay,
games.
it was-
Since Robinson.
Guys,
Yeah.
Jerry
Yeah,
Narin,
all right,
Jerry
all right.
Narin caught that game.
I guess he didn't catch that game then, but okay. But
Hmm.
that was the
I
name
wanted to get
always
that in
remember.
because Clayton had to jump out, as you guys can see. He's got another engagement that he has to go to this evening. But let's go to the AL Central. Minnesota's out in front. Do we think Cleveland's catching them?
Hmm.
Oh, Ian's saying yes. I got Walt saying no. This could be a precursor to a debate next week. Ian, what do you think?
I think Frank is a better manager. Guardians usually improve as the season goes along.
They just lost Shane Bieber,
Well, that would,
and they're about to probably trade another starter, and their offense is really, really weak. That's my thing. But
no,
I
if they
don't-
lost Bieber,
I don't think
yes.
either- I don't think either-
I would agree with you more. I didn't know that.
I don't think either team is great, to be honest with you.
No, they've proven that.
Now,
That's a weak
what
division.
about the West, guys, with Texas up 3 over Houston? You think Texas is staying in? Thinks Texas is staying in that leader spot? I do.
They're good.
They lead the league in runs scored.
That's true. That's true. They have a run
They'll be
differential of
they'll be there
159.
as long as their pitching holds up.
Yeah, and there's a team where if DeGrom, well, I can't believe I hear myself saying if DeGrom didn't get hurt.
Oh, if he was healthy.
That's what he does. But I do fear we all know Nate Eovaldi well and probably respect and like, and I loved his return to Fenway. I contrasted it with a friend that's when Aaron Hicks returned to Yankee Stadium, they played a tribute video to him on the board and the fans booed him. When Nate Eovaldi came back to Fenway, he threw out the first pitch. Okay, so, but I don't trust Eovaldi to stay. He's been terrific, but you can't trust him to stay healthy for the whole season, and I think Texas is going to need that. That's another team that could go after Ohtani, by the way.
Well, see, now here's the next question. We brought him up several times. Does Ohtani stay in Anaheim or is he going? Now, currently, the Angels are 6 out of the playoffs, 2 games under 500 and 9 out of first. What do you guys think? Does Ohtani stay or is he going?
You mean traded or
Yes.
in
Is
free
he being
agency?
traded at the deadline or no?
I don't think he goes.
I could go either way.
I think the optics
Going
are
at the end
just
of the year.
too awful.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with Gary. I agree with Gary.
I get that, but they have Trout out now. When Trout was still healthy, I would have said Artie Moreno. I could see them refusing to trade him. I cannot see him coming back though as a free agent.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
he's
he's
not.
gone.
Oh, yeah, no, he's
Glenn,
gone.
Glenn's
Go.
chomping at the bit here.
I am not sure that anybody's going to offer what they believe they should receive for that short-term
Right.
Well, that's the thing. Are you,
I don't think anybody will give it up.
you're gonna give somebody a package of prospects? The reason I don't want the Red Sox to go after him is because Chaim Bloom has worked his butt off to rebuild this farm system. And, I could just see them, if Dave Dombrowski was still here, you'd have Marcelo Mayer and Roman Anthony and Brian Bayo and whoever else he could throw into a cart for 2 months of Ohtani, and then Ohtani will sign somewhere else at the end of the year. I don't like the double payment part. You got to give up prospects and then $400 or $500 million. No, thanks.
Not interested.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he wants to be on the East Coast anyway. That's my
I
impression.
don't believe that either. Right.
And doesn't he have a ability to veto a trade? I don't know how that works.
No, I don't think he does.
Thought he
doesn't
did.
You have
No.
to be at 10-5. 10
I
years.
saw something somewhere that said that they could ask him to, but okay, maybe I got that wrong.
Unless it's in his contract, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, I
right.
don't
He
know what
was-
his
I think
contract
I think
says.
Heather's
He's not a
right.
10-5 man.
Not 10.
I'm pretty certain Heather's right. And her and I, you and I have discussed that in the past, Heather. I'm pretty certain she's right here.
You think he can
Well, I
block
don't
the
know.
trade?
Well, I just don't think he wants to go anywhere but the West Coast. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's going to end up either with the Dodgers or with Seattle
Seattle.
as a free agent.
Well,
I think it's all
yeah.
just gonna blow over. I think people are just gonna get out of this kind of like weird fantasy world that they live in where somehow Ohtani is going to parachute in and save them and at the
Well,
cost of, 8 minor leaguers and whatever.
Well, like obviously a team, if he did go east, the first team you'd have to look at is the Yankees. Because they have the resources and the farm system to get them if they had to. But, and I would love to ask our Yankee fan, Frank, how would you feel about the Yankees paying $80-90 million a year to 2 players?
No. No, I'm not going for it.
No? Right. Because that's what it would, you're already
I'm not
paying
doing
Judge.
it. I mean, Ohtani, I suspect Ohtani will get like $500 million over, 8 years, 10 years. The Dodgers can pay that. And it'll
Well-
probably work out for him.
Yeah,
But
that would be my first guess.
But I don't want to do it.
My second guess might be the Giants.
Yeah, and another team that could pay it. I don't know that they'd want to.
Well,
I mean, the Dodgers don't seem particularly bothered by actually spending money.
well, or exceeding the luxury tax, which is more to the point. I mean, there's exceeding the luxury tax, and then there's what the Mets have done, where the Mets basically pay 1.5 times the cost of every player they acquire because they're so far over.
Yeah.
If they sign somebody for $100 million with the tax cost of $150, which is just
Cohen could pay twice that if he wanted to, but he just doesn't want to.
Oh, look what it got him so far.
yeah, no,
He
exactly.
can lay out all the money in the
Yeah,
world
I mean,
and
I think somehow I think lots of baseball fans have a terribly naive view of what owners really are. They're by and large not guys who love baseball and then accidentally came into a lot of money. Some of them actually have some interest in baseball, but I would say most of them are guys who are just have lots and lots of money, more money than they know what to do with, as evidenced by the fact that, okay, I have a baseball team. And by the way, I need, what do I need? Oh, maybe a soccer team. That would be good. What else could I buy? But baseball, they're not by and large, they're not baseball guys. They're rich guys. I mean, they've got an asset. Exactly. They've got an asset that doesn't depreciate. It's virtually guaranteed to appreciate.
exactly.
By leaps and bounds. And they're not particularly ashamed to ask the public to pick up the tab for things that they need. In fact,
As we said earlier.
Exactly.
You had that earlier, Walt.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Not only are they not ashamed, not only are they not ashamed to ask for that, they think they're entitled to it and pout. Not personally, but one would think that they say, gee, why aren't they giving, why isn't the city of Oakland giving me $1 billion?
because the city of Oakland has other more important needs. Thank you very much.
Exactly. As does every other city who gives them
That's my
a
point.
penny,
These are private enterprises. These are
except
companies-
Vegas. Except
Right.
that, yeah, the
Except
private,
Vegas, right,
right.
except Vegas.
They're the
yeah.
private enterprise guys, when they can get more money, they're not so sold on private enterprise when they want to ask for money.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's a story. I don't think it's entirely apocryphal, but when the Nationals relocated from Montreal to Washington back in 2005, immediately part of the deal was, well, we're going to need a stadium. We're going to need a stadium. And the DC council got together and met with the relocation committee. And I think it was chaired by Jerry Reinsdorf, who was there. And they made this big detailed proposal. And they said, you know, typically in situations like this, we look at like a 65-35 public-private split. And Jerry Reinsdorf looked right to them and said, we were thinking much more along the lines of 100% public and 0 private, which is exactly what they got. Yeah, that is the.
Heads
that
I
is
win,
the
tails
point.
you lose kind of thing.
Right, yeah. Let's talk about the NL East for just a minute. Miami is a
Right.
surprise. Do we think they can catch Atlanta?
Nobody.
Oh,
Nobody's catching Atlanta. No.
Yeah, Braves.
It's got too many
To me, It looks
guys.
like the NL's kind of over unless you look at the NL Central. Yeah, Cincinnati's come on strong. I could see them making some noise with Milwaukee down the stretch, but I mean, even the West with San Francisco only a game and a half out, I don't see how they're going to catch LA. I don't think they have the guns. What do you guys say?
Well, and Arizona's been in that mix,
Yeah, Arizona's 2 out. You're right. You're right.
and the Padres probably have the most talented team in the division.
They got what, four of the top 7 shortstops in baseball, and they're playing them every day.
Well, not. I mean, I love Xander Bogaerts. I am glad we didn't re-sign him, but he's probably the 3rd best defensive shortstop in that infield.
Yeah.
And Jay Cronenworth isn't a bad shortstop either.
Yeah.
I think we have exhausted ourselves here. I don't know about you, but when I said that this was going to be a freewheeling hour of discussion, I didn't quite think the wheel was going to be this free. I'm pretty impressed. Who says we don't know what we're talking about up here? Who says we're a sleepy little chapter up here in northern New England?
What's the weather like up there?
What's that?
How's the weather up there, Bruce?
Boy, Bill Nolan's bowing out. Have a good night, Bill. I'll see you soon.
Wet.
Rain.
Rain, and more rain. Last Monday, I had 6.5 inches of rain. In
Well, yeah, I've got a colleague who retired to the area around Akima, and they got blasted.
They got hammered out there.
Yeah.
Some of the now I have a very good friend who is an executive with Simon Pierce, the glass company.
Mm-hmm.
And she has been sending me some videos of the river by the initial store in White River Junction. And it's nuts because it's breached their kitchen, it's breached their manufacturing facility. This is a big worldwide company that is trying to figure out how they're going to move forward. And I'm very, very, very lucky where my office is, because you walk out of my front door, down my steps, out my little front driveway where cars park, and then there's a little grassy area. And when you get to the edge of the grassy area, that's where the floodplain begins.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go to the end of my street and there's 2 big shopping complexes with like a Kohl's and a Target and all sorts of stuff, they were closed for a couple of days because they're so close to the Connecticut River. They're talking about more rain tomorrow. It's like, make it stop. My basement's crying uncle.
The Connecticut River can do damage, as you know, well, you were from West Hartford, Bruce, is that where
Yeah.
you're from?
Yep.
I don't know if you've ever met anyone as I have that who grew up in what they used to call Front Street in Hartford.
Yeah. Yep.
Before they built the earthen dikes and Interstate 91 on top of it, that whole area would flood every spring.
Yep. Yep. They put the Pope River underground.
Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Enough Connecticut talk. We probably used it up.
Right. So, all right. So, hey, next week, July 25th, like I say, 7:00. Dr. Paul, Dr. Clayton is going to be here. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I'm going to fly by the, Glenn's like, yeah, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. I have no idea how I'm going to do this.
You'll have to make
Fine,
popcorn
but
and eat
you're
our
good.
popcorn while we're watching.
Yeah,
Cool.
I may or may not be on one recommendation though. Have people vote at the end.
That's what we've discussed.
Yeah.
That's what we've discussed. I was going to have an online, one of my Google voting things, or with just a show of hands or something like that. But yeah, you're right. I agree.
Vote at the beginning too.
What's that?
Vote at the beginning too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
Anybody's
idea.
mind change.
That's even
Oh,
better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Vote
that's a
yes,
good
Change
idea.
our
no,
minds.
or unsure.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Kevin. That's a great idea.
Who got their mind changed? Yeah.
Who
But
got their
don't
mind
tell
changed?
anybody-
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody the results at the beginning.
So
So
I
as
mean,
to
yeah, I
not
can have
bias
it. I can have it done. You can chat me for that. That's a great idea. That's right. Now you have to show up. No.
I'm actually out of town next week, so I can't, but,
What?
yeah.
That's no,
sorry.
no. That can't be. That
Doesn't
can't be.
wash.
Doesn't wash. There you go. Doesn't wash. So yeah, July 25th, 7:00. Be there. I'll put the Zoom link out very shortly in an email to everybody. It'll be a great time. So let's get everybody out of here. I want to thank everybody for coming. Joanne for the poem. Appreciate that. Joanne, come on in next week and have one ready. There's got to be a poem about debates you've got in your database somewhere.
I could probably find one.
Perfect. All right. All right.
Take care. It's
Yes,
fun.
Cliff. Anything else? All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for coming. See you next
Thank
week.
you.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Great.